Section 1, Desk Overview. This is the LS9's navigation and control section. Here you will find cursors for navigating the interface and a jog wheel for editing parameters. You will also see there are dedicated controls for controlling gain, pan and EQ, as well as an enter button for selection and a home button to return to the home screen. In the centre of the console you will find the screen and the stereo meter bridge. To the left of the screen you will see the mix matrix used for selecting sends. Next to this there is a layer selection for selecting specific fader layers, racks for internal effects and graphics, and the display axis section for navigation between screens in the interface. In the lower half of the desk you will find the channel fader strips. Each strip has a selection key which will highlight the track on the display window, a cue key for pre-fade listening, an individual LED meter and a channel on button. You will also find the 16 individual channel faders and the master fader. Above this you will see the stereo inputs, which have the same controls as the usual channel fader strips, however the faders have been replaced by rotary controls. Below you will find the user-defined keys which can be used to control anything you want, for example a tap tempo on a delay effect. On the front face of the desk you will find the headphone output. Section 2, Power Up and Accounts. You will find the power switch on the rear of the console. At this point, you'll need to enter your login details. Enter your username and password using the navigation keys. You will now have access to the home screen. To set up a user, you will need to insert a USB storage device. Now press the Setup key. This will display the user setup menu. Using the navigation keys, navigate to the Create User key and press Enter. This screen allows you to set permissions for this user, along with the username and password. Press Enter on the username input box to bring up the on-screen keyboard. Repeat this for the password. When you have finished editing permissions, press the Create key and confirm your selection. Scroll to the currently selected user and press Enter and select User key. Select your user from the USB drive. You'll be required to enter your password to continue. Section 3, Getting a signal. Plug your input source into the XLR inputs on the rear of the console. Now, select channel with the select key. To PFL a channel, hit the Q button. This brings PFL to the main meters for more accurate metering. The cued signal is also sent to the headphones. Change the input gain with the gain knob while the track is selected. Gain level changes are visible on the screen. Use the meter bridge as a guide to help you set a healthy gain level. Repeat this process for any other input sources, ensuring you only cue one channel at a time. To pan a channel, whilst it's selected, use the pan control. In order to get a signal out of the desk, we must raise the master fader to 0. To send the channels to the master output, we must ensure the channels are on and raise the channel faders. Section 4, Equalization. You can use the EQ control section to EQ the selected channel. Change the frequency band you're adjusting with the corresponding buttons. EQ changes are visible on the screen. Scroll to the EQ tab and press Enter to bring up the more detailed view. From within this screen, you can enable and adjust the frequency of the high-pass filter. The On button in the bottom left corner can be used to bypass the EQ. Bear in mind this is independent of the high-pass filter. You can scroll to the Defaults button to flatten the EQ. Section 5, Dynamics. Whilst the channel is selected, you can insert a dynamic processor by scrolling to the Dynamics section and pressing Enter. On each channel, there are 2 groups of dynamics to choose from. Group 1 include gate, ducking, compression, and an expander. Group 2 includes compressor, hard compander, soft compander, and a de-esser. Each dynamic processor can be bypassed with its on button. Section 6, Sends. In order to select auxiliaries, select the desired channel and select the aux which you would like on the matrix. You can adjust the auxiliary level using the selected send control. By pressing auxiliary matrix buttons twice, you can transfer auxiliary level control to the faders. Each fader now controls that channel's send level to the selected auxiliary. You can switch auxiliaries between pre and post by hitting enter whilst an auxiliary is selected. Section 7. Rack Effects. Select racks 5 to 8 for effects. This will bring up the effects screen. Hit the same rack button again to scroll through to racks 6, 7 and 8. In order to select the input source, highlight the input source selection and press enter. By default, effect input sources are set to auxiliaries 13, 14, 15 and 16. Outputs are sent by default to stereo returns but can be brought back into a channel if required. Section 8. Graphic Equalizers. Racks 1 to 4 are graphic equalizers. By default, the inputs and outputs of the rack are set to nothing. To change the input or output, select it and push enter. To get the graphics working, you'll need to route them to the channel you require. In this case, we want them to the stereo mix, so we can set both ins and outs as stereo left and right, and link racks 1 and 2 together. Graphic control can be assigned to the faders by pressing the fader assigned frequency bands. The frequencies in these bands can now be adjusted by the faders. To reset the graphics band by band, you can press the on button on the related fader track. To reset the entire EQ, scroll up to the flat button, press enter and then confirm. Section 9. Scene Saving. If you want to save your mix, press the Scene Memory button. The initial scene is 000. In order to change this, you must create a new scene. To do this, scroll to a new scene, select Store and press enter, bringing up a new window. In this new window, create a name, scroll to Store and confirm. Section 10. Phantom Power. Press the Setup button twice to enter the System Setup menu. Whilst in Administrator mode, you are able to turn Global Phantom Power on or off. To do this, simply scroll to the 48V master switch, turn it on and confirm. You can now enable Phantom Power on an individual channel. To do this, press the 48V button in the head amplifier gain section.